I must get to my next guest, very patiently waiting as well, Admiral Dr. Chris Parry, CB. He's a former NATO naval commander and joins us. Good morning to you.
Morning, Julia.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I'm sure you'll have thoughts on what Lord Bethel had to say. You welcome to no, shaking your heads. Let's go straight to two topics I want to talk to you about. One is the Channel migrant crossings. I mean, the figures. It never ceases to astound me, the numbers we're talking about. The latest migrant figures, 1,106 migrants crossed the Channel in the past week alone. It's a record for the year so far on 26 more boats. It's also more than double the same week last year. Wednesday alone, last week, we had 492 Channel migrants in just 11 boats. Bearing in mind, just one of those days, we'd have pretty much filled up that barge which could house 500 people. That's going to be used to house some migrants. What do you make of these numbers? Does this mean that we are just going to be seeing yet another exponential rise in the number of Channel migrants?
Well, you're right, Julia. I mean, it's only April. We've got summer ahead of us now. It's what I used to call the boating season when I was talking to you about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And currently, with the legislation and arrangements in place, we're going to be overwhelmed. If you think last year's numbers were bad, it's going to be even worse this year.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. We keep being told that everything is, being got on top of, but clearly not. Now, this is something that the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has said this is one of his 5 pledges, stopping the boats. Not going so well so far.
Well, I'm afraid the government picks at this in tactical fashion. It doesn't look at an overall strategy. We've spoken for years about the need to detect these people as they're getting into the water rather than when they get to the median line across the Channel. And the only way you're going to do that is get decent technology in the air to detect when they're going in the water, actually tell the French when it's happening and get them to sort it out.
You've talked about this, about using the tech, using the drones, but once again, I've seen some footage on some TV this week showing, the French police watching these people getting into the water. Now, this is the stuff I never understand because, you actually have to have show ID cards and things in France. You have to have it on you at all times. I'm thinking maybe they could just simply go and arrest these people and say, have you got ID cards? No, you haven't. But they don't ever seem to actually do anything to stop these largely young men getting into the boats in the first place. So it's not a question of, do we know where they're going? They know exactly which beaches they're going from and they just sit there and watch it.
Well, again, in the past, we've said that if the French don't apply the law and they don't actually help us here, and at the end of the day, this is a humanitarian crisis that affects both sides of the Channel, then we need to apply political sanctions to France in relation to this. For heaven's sake, if it were happening the other way around, I suspect the EU would be putting very heavy coercive pressure on the United Kingdom. But so far, I don't know anybody who's fleeing to the EU from the United Kingdom, so it doesn't apply. Why would they?
Yeah, I mean, again, France has been a bit war-torn lately. It has to be said. There's been some few problems there. Let me also ask you about what's been going on in Ukraine. We've had a whole sort of cache of documents, of Pentagon documents that have been released, and some latest documents suggest that we have got a large number, some up to 50 military special forces from the UK currently operating Ukraine, along with other countries, but Wales is one of the largest. Should we be surprised by this?
No, we shouldn't be surprised. Ukraine is a friendly country. It's been under severe attack by, let's face it, a country run by war criminals. There's been mass murder, there's been rape, there's been massive looting of this country. Nearly a third of it has been taken over by Russia. Of course, we're helping, so are other countries. What they're actually doing in theatre is providing intelligence back to us, of course, because, just as with your previous conversation, in Ukraine, there's a difference between the truth and what is believed. On both sides, in fact. So we need to get ground truth about what's really happening. Secondly, we're training people, and we were training people before the conflict erupted last year. All the way through from 2014. It shouldn't surprise anybody, least of all the Russians.
But I was going to say, but is this the sort of thing that Vladimir Putin can claim? And again, I've never understood the difference between sending a jet or sending tanks in terms of the military aid we give, but whether he could claim, oh, well, if they're British forces in Ukraine, these are NATO forces on neutral territory. And he, the way he does try to sort of spin things for his own advantage.
Well, I think the answer to that is you've got 300,000 troops in Ukraine. Fact of life is Ukraine, is a friendly country. It's one that NATO sees as vital to its own security. Why wouldn't we have people there? Yeah. And as long as they're not involved in direct combat with Russian troops, he shouldn't be able to complain. In fact, he's in no position to complain about anything. And he's a leading international pariah. He's somebody who's going to be who has been indicted by the International Criminal Court. And I think all decent people and free countries need to recognise exactly what needs to be done to sustain Ukraine.
Really good to talk to you, as always, Rear Admiral Dr. Chris Parry, CBE.